that is a wrap on competition for regionals. An exciting finish all the way to the end. Pat Sherwood, Tommy Marquez. We will have the official qualifiers for Carson in just a moment. But first, your initial thoughts. We'll deal with who made it in just a moment. But how about the guys that were fighting for that #1 position?
Panchik and Hepner, man, all weekend long. Panchik won this regional last year. He wasn't in the top spot going into Event 7. Don't know how it's going to shake up going out of Event 7, but everybody out there, man, sprinting to the finish. I love that finale.
And then a couple of bubble athletes, Will Morad in particular, looked like he might have snuck into that second position right behind Panchik in that heat. We still don't know where Sam Dancer finished. We don't know how Kevin Schutz finished. It's kind of all of a jumble right now, so I'm just waiting to hear what that announcement is.
And then a huge comeback for Jacob Hepner, too, in this race and in this regional. You mentioned the defending champ Panchik coming back and putting on a show, trying to get back to that top spot. But what about the performance of Jacob Hepner throughout the weekend?
I mean, after event #1, where he took a 24th place, and we didn't know how tough it would be to climb out of that hole, since then, he's been cruising. Not a problem whatsoever.
The last 6 events are really indicative of what he's capable at the games.
Now, a reminder, we will have a full wrap-up on all the weekend's action in just a moment, but we don't want to leave you in suspense anymore. Let's get you back out there to Columbus for the announcement of the final.
Well, it's been an exciting 3 days. To downplay that just a little bit, I think I've lost a few years off my life after watching 3 weeks of competition. This didn't help any. So the scores are in, and the top 5 will be announced by Kiki Dixon.
We have our top 5 athletes. Taking first, it's going to be Scott Panchik. Taking second, we've got Jacob Hepner. In third, going to Carson, we have Alex Anderson. Earning a 4th place finish, it's Zach. The 5th athlete heading into the 2016 CrossFit Games is going to be Sam Dancer! Congratulations to our male individual competitors. The race is over. We have our 5. See you in Carson!
And as you just heard, Sam Dancer, Games on team 2 years ago, where his team took second, just missing out last year in his debut as an individual, has hung on and got himself his first trip to Carson as an individual.
And you can see there, as the other male athletes congratulated him, how much it truly means to all of them to be able to hit that spot. So really emotional a moment for these athletes to find out when they qualify.
And after 3 days of competition, 7 wild and crazy events, and countless shifts up and down the leaderboard, your top 5 teams, individual men and individual women, have been decided. Scott Panchik, back-to-back Central Regional wins, taking it over Jacob Hepner in that final event. Alex Anderson is returning to the games, but he will be going with his brother, Jacob Anderson, out of the Atlantic region. Zach Carcetti, rookie sensation, coming in first trip, and then Sam Dancer just barely fighting off Will Morad and Kevin Schutz at the end to get himself a bid to Carson.
And for the first time ever, we saw a name at the bottom of that board that we hadn't seen before, Grant Holmberg. They did not qualify, but he was your 2010 CrossFit Games champion.
As we close things out here at the 2016 Central Regional, they've got a stacked field representing the Central in Carson, California in July. It's been a wild ride as we close things out here in Columbus, Ohio. For Cherie Chan, Nikki Brazier, I'm Chase Ingram. A recap of all athletes going to the games this year. We'll send it up to the Update studio.
Well, there you have it. All the men, women, and teams who are headed to Carson have been announced. What a end to a very exciting weekend of coverage here on the CrossFit Games Regional Weekend number 3. Pat Sherwood, Tommy Marquez, before we get into the full rundown of what took place this weekend, let's get your initial reaction to what we just witnessed there. Scott Panchik making up the points he needed and getting back into the first place position.
Heading to the games for the 5th time. He's one of the most consistent CrossFitters in recent years. He won this regional last year in dramatic fashion, and he does the exact same thing here. Panchik, just one of the best in the business, really.
Hebner going second 2 years in a row from this regional, but he gets his buddy Zach Carcetti coming with him to the games. The second Anderson brother and Alex Anderson qualifying. And then Sam Dancer.
Sam Dancer.
Not a repeat of last year. He gets to go now. He's going to be a fun athlete to interview at the games.
Let's recap all that took place today, and maybe the most exciting finish of all came in women's event 7 from the Meridian Regional. Here's a recap of where we were when we went in to that final heat. We knew who was moving on. We just didn't know in what spots and in what way they would qualify. But Sarah Sigmundsdottir, Annie Thorisdottir, Holte Briggs, and Helga Dotter were in that final 5 as we went to the final event. The field of play, Kristen Holte was solidly in that top 5, didn't end up factoring into our thrilling finish here, but she was certainly a factor. Helga Dotter held the lead going into the final couple of rope climbs. She was very strong throughout, but she was being chased down. Thorisdottir and Sigmundsdottir were going rep for rep and step for step as they climbed the rig and put up that barbell. Then when we went into the final couple of reps, Sam Briggs just kept chugging along, keeping her own pace and keeping herself in the mix. But as they approached the rig for the final time, Helga Dotter held the rope first for that final rope climb.
Turi Helga Dotter is putting the finishing touches on a run to the CrossFit Games. Here comes Sigmundsdottir and Thorisdottir. They're both making it to the rope at the same time. Thorisdottir makes the touch ahead of Sigmundsdottir. And here's a foot race to the finish. Briggs, Thorisdottir, Sigmundsdottir. It's Sam Briggs, followed by Thorisdottir and Sigmundsdottir. Mere hundreds of seconds separating those 3 women. The main event isn't until July, but we got a pretty good preview of the fight that we're going to see from those 3 women. Sarah Sigmundsdottir is standing by with Rory McKernan.
Sarah, you can't wipe the smile off your face, so let's talk about it. How does it feel to win your 2nd Meridian Regional?
It feels so amazing.
It's the same result as last year, but how was this year's competition different for you?
It was more pressure because I was in first place the whole time. So it reminded me a little bit of the games. So I was like, oh, it's not over until it's over.
Sarah Sigmundsdottir is your regional winner there for the Meridian. Pushed, though, by Annie Thorisdottir right to the end, and she caught up with Rory McKernan next.
Obviously, last year was like insane disappointment. So the plan is not to let that happen again. And then hopefully I can just show what I can do at the games. My goal is definitely to win the CrossFit Games. She's going to give me a competition for it, but we'll see.
So those are your top 2 finishers in that Meridian Regional. But there's the woman who won the race of the day, Sam Briggs. You heard Sean Woodland's excellent call, and Sam Briggs comes away with that event win. She advances to regional. Again, here are your qualifiers from the Meridian Regional for the women. Sigmundsdottir, Thorisdottir, Helga Dotter, and Holte and Briggs in there as well. All 5 of them certainly threats when they come to Carson to take away the top prize.
And beyond a shadow of a doubt, Sarah Sigmundsdottir versus the former champ and Thorisdottir, that was one of the best head-to-heads I've seen. trading just wins, trading, top 3 finishes within 10 points of each other once it was all said and done. And this just tells the tale. Top 5 finishes, 6 versus 7, 640 points versus 650. Both so young, so talented. Thorisdottir's been to the game 6 times, heading back for the 7th. Sigmundsdottir has only been there once, of course, got herself on the podium, and at 23 years young, a lot of people think that she could be one of the next people to achieve the crown. And you heard Thorisdottir say, yeah, this is who I'm going to be battling with. But after Annie withdrew from the games last year, how good she looked at regionals this year really impressed me. The old Annie is back in town.
That final race might be, in the end, a preview of what we have to look forward to in Carson. And Helgadottir really held that event in her hands going into that final rep. She got a no rep, though, on that last rope climb.
Yeah, that no rep cost her what could have possibly been an event record and what looked like an event win until the very end. And really, if you look at what that would have done for the standings, she was in 5th, but that event win would have put her up in 3rd. She would have been right behind 2 other daughters in Annie and Sarah competing for one of the top spots on the podium. Really, she was spectacular all weekend. If you look at any other region, if she wasn't behind 2 of the best in the sport, we might be looking at her as a regional champion, maybe 2nd place overall. So do not sleep on Turi Helgadottir, especially at the games this year.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing all 5 of those women back in action in Carson in just a few weeks. Now let's take a look at the men who will be joining them after a thrilling weekend of work out there in the Meridian Regional. Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson is your winner. He takes the top spot in that regional. He'll be joined by a couple of newcomers to the game, Lucas Esslinger and Adrian Mundweiler. Jona Koski and Lucas Hogberg, they will return to the games. But the winner from the Meridian Regional, Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson, caught up after his work was done with Rory McKernan.
How does it feel to win your region?
Man, this is, I don't know, it's similar to finishing at the podium of the games, I guess. It's been the goal for at least 4 years now, finishing 3rd and then 2nd and then taking the 1st place. It's amazing feeling.
You already know what I'm going to ask you next. You said at the beginning of the weekend you had some goals. It was to improve on what you've done previously. Now that you've won the regional, next would be improving on a 3rd place finish at the games. What makes you confident that you can do that?
I mean, I won the Open, now I win the regionals, so why shouldn't I be able to win the games?
No reason. We look forward to seeing you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
BKG, top qualifier from the Meridian. Pat, your thoughts on his chances heading to Carson based off the performance he had in this weekend of qualifying?
I think he's the most exciting male athlete to come out of Europe since Mikko Salo. He's been to the games twice. Last year did fantastic, put himself on the podium, taking 3rd place. He's only 23 years young, okay? He took 9th worldwide in the Open. He was 2nd place at regionals last year, improved to 1st this year. Maybe the only question we had about him was strength. 1st place in the snatch ladder in event 5. Heavy deadlifts come out. He takes 2nd on that. Bjorgvin Carl Gudmundsson, man, he's going to tear it up.
All right, last but not least from the Meridian Regional, we've got the teams that are headed off to Carson. Let's get a look at the 5 that are advancing. Nordic OPEX, they take the top spot, followed closely by CrossFit Yaz, Copenhagen 1, CFXY, and then CrossFit Solid, your final 5 to qualify for the games. A very exciting round of competition there with Nordic OPEX taking the top spot. And maybe a little bit surprisingly, considering how strong CrossFit Yaz is considered.
True, but congratulations to Nordic OPEX. It's amazing what one good year of training can do. Rewind the calendar, they took 7th place a year ago, and now 1st place. Huge improvement.
Even though it's 2nd place, a little bit of redemption for CrossFit Yaz.
No doubt.
Last year they were 2nd at regionals and they didn't get to go because of the eligibility issues. This year, no issues. Make it back to the CrossFit Games. Now they can just focus on trying to win there.
Some outstanding competition out in Madrid. All right, let's get over to Albany next, the East Regional, and we'll start with the women once again, where there was a bit of that European feel with Katrin Davidsdottir coming over and taking over this region. She ends up finishing 1st, and we caught up with her directly after she had qualified once again for the CrossFit Games in Carson.
I had the time of my life last summer training for the games, and I couldn't be more excited to just do the same thing. Every day, just go as hard as I can. I'm trashed at night. I sleep well, recover, and then go all over again.
I'll get you out of here on one more question. How good is your Snapchat game going to be tonight?
So strong. I I went off Snapchat this weekend. I never go off Snapchat, but I did this weekend.
But you're coming back.
Yes.
All right, Katrin Davidsdottir, the Queen of the East.
Katrin Davidsdottir there talking to our Mike Arsenault as she qualifies in first position, joining her Carol-Ann Reason-Thibault, Michelle Letendre, Carrie Pierce, and then coming in at the last moment by a single point, Tasia Persevich. She is going to Carson.
But the woman we had to keep our eye on, Katrin Davidsdottir, the champ. A lot of pressure coming in, wanted to see how she would do, and she crushed it, really. 6 out of 7 events, that is, looked darn near flawless until once again we saw the legless rope climbs come out. Then she struggled there. And the funny thing was, the woman chasing her the entire weekend, Carol-Ann Reason-Thibault, almost mirror image of everything that took place. And Carol-Ann really impressed me as well. She took 27th at the games last year, then hung with Katrin all weekend long, and then both of them also shared, a little bit of a challenge here on the final event. But hey, they're human. They still have something to work on, but we should be keeping our eye on both of these ladies at the games because they crushed it.
Yeah, great performances from them, no doubt, but I'm just so impressed with Tasia Persevich and how she performed, especially in that last event. She's a great example of how mental fortitude can help benefit you physically as well. She was 4th after day 1, 7th after day 2, 6th after 6 events, but you know what? She came out firing. If you follow her on social media, at the end of each day, she made a post just focusing on positivity. Didn't seem to be shaken no matter what. We even caught up with her backstage a long time ago, but she still seemed positive no matter what the situation. And when your mental aspect is taken care of and you're confident, the physical part, that's all been done. She's done the training. She knows what she can do, and eventually it came out to shine in the biggest moment for her.
She set it on fire in event 7, so she earned it.
An outstanding performance to claim the final qualifying spot from Albany heading to Carson. Qualifying in first position for the men was Matt Fraser. I don't know if there were too many athletes this weekend more impressive than him, but for more on the men that are headed to Carson, let's send it back out to Albany with our East Regional coverage team.
Everything finished up here in Albany, New York for the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games East Regional, and what a weekend it was. This has been the year of the tight points race. They didn't get any tighter than they did here in the East as Alex Vigneault, by a tiebreaker, gets his second trip to the games ahead of Chase Smith. One person that wasn't caught up in a tight race was Matt Fraser.
Matt was just dominant the entire weekend. It didn't matter what event it was. If he wasn't winning it, he was right there close to it. He was dominant on all the different movements. His strength came through. I think the biggest thing that came through really, though, was how dialed in he is. More dialed in and more focused, I think, than we've ever seen. He's had a lot of practice now with a lot of first places, and he's hoping to just roll with that in Carson.
5 wins and the most points ever in a single regional appearance. 670 for your East Regional champ, Matt Fraser, who's with Mike Arsenault.
Matt Fraser, the champ, is here. 5 wins in 7 events. Give me an honest self-assessment of your performance.
Proud of myself for the most part. There's some other parts where I'm going to go back to the drawing board and try to make some corrections.
Why were you so focused this weekend?
I think CrossFit's taken 100% of my attention. It's what I do day in, day out. It's my only thought throughout the day. So coming to this, it's what I've been training for 100%.
Now, I know a regional championship isn't the end goal, of course. That's a CrossFit Games title. How long will you enjoy this victory?
I'll probably take a rest day tomorrow and then start training.
And what's going to be the focus over the next 6-7 weeks before Carson?
Nothing in particular. Just going to keep doing what I'm doing, trying to do a well-rounded training, and maybe look back at some of my events over this weekend and try to improve.
Matt Fraser, the 2016 Beast of the East.
Fraser made it look easy here in the East, and somebody that barely made it by, not making it look easy at all, was Alex Vigneault. He takes 9th in event number 7, but the key finish was his 3rd in event number 5. That's what gave him the tiebreaker over Chase Smith's best finish of 4th in event number 2.
His performances were good enough to get him to Carson, but not to have on our screen and steal any highlights away from any event winners or from Matt Fraser. And his emotion, his excitement there when he heard we was going to the games, I think tells it all.
That excitement as he gets the spot by a tiebreaker. Going to the games once again, Alex Vigneault with Mike Arsenault.
Alex, talk about cutting it close. You were tied 483 points with 6th place. It came down to the top finish. You had a 3rd place finish. Chase Smith had 2 fourths. Did you know it was going to be that close, and what was going through your mind as they were announcing who was going to head to Carson?
No. The plan did not go as I planned. So I just tried to push as hard as I can on the last event, and I knew that if I gave all I had on the last one, it would be more chance for me to go to Carson. So it can be close more close.
What letter grade would you give yourself on this weekend?
What?
A, B, C, ou D?
A.
What grade? What grade on a report card?
C. C.
I'd give you an A. Now, what do you need to work on heading toward the CrossFit Games in less than 2 months?
What?
What do you need to work on going to the CrossFit Games?
I just keep working on CrossFit. I will run, swim, and do Metcons, strength stuff. That's all I need to do.
Okay, congratulations on a great performance. We'll see you at the CrossFit Games.
Thank you.
Alex Vigneault by tiebreaker, and it was less than 1 second. The difference from Chase Smith being in this celebration instead of Alex Vigneault. That's a wrap on the men's competition. Let's go back up to Santa Cruz.
Outstanding work out there in Albany all weekend long, guys. Thank you so much for the coverage. Matt Frazier matches an all-time CrossFit Games regional weekend record by winning 5 events. Pat, does this make him, at this point in time, the favorite when we look ahead to Carson?
It has to be. I mean, he has over a 150-point lead from 2nd place. And, if we're sitting around after regionals talking about what ifs and who could do whatever, the question comes up, all right, well, Matt Frazier could win the games, but he can't. And I struggle to think of something that he can't do. Yeah, he's 100% in contention to have the gold medal around his neck.
And then he mentioned that the little details are going to start to come together now that he's done with school, the sleep, the nutrition, the recovery, all of that stuff. That only means he's going to get better from there. You got to feel for Chase Smith, though. Missing out on the games on a tiebreaker, excellent effort from him this weekend.
Yeah, that was as close as it really gets. The East team competition, not quite as close, but still we have to give the proper recognition for all of our qualifiers. Here they are: Dynamics, Parallax, Milford Black, Back Bay, and Jacked RX Red. Those are the 5 teams that are heading to Carson to represent that East Regional. And guys, your thoughts on the opportunity for these 5 teams to compete and contend in Carson?
I look forward to seeing what they can do. It was a big swing in the final day of competition. Teams moving like Jacked RX from 1st to 5th, Dynamics moving into that top spot, and we've been tossing around that super team thing all weekend long, and they lived up to it, taking 1st place, so they're finally going to go, and now we get to see what they can do at the big show.
And that's a testament to the parity in this region in terms of the team competition. More often than not, there's a couple of teams that have an outside looking in shot at making it into the top 5. All top 5 were secure, but their positions within the top 5 weren't secure. 29 points separated 1st through 5th, so a great competition out there in Albany.
That's a wrap on Albany and the Eastern Regional. How about Central and Columbus? We'll begin with the women, the 5 that are advancing on to Carson. Sheila Barden, Stacy Tovar, Brooke Wells, Jen Smith, and Christy Aramo by just about 18 points in there. I mean, that's a pretty close margin, although we've seen some closer ones over the course of this weekend. But Sheila Barden, she takes the region, and she gets the opportunity to talk to our Nikki Brazier.
Just take me through the weekend. What were your ups and downs?
We planned on winning 3 events. Christy came out and took that last event from me, and that's totally fine. We knew where I could make points up and where I could kind of let go a little bit and not burn my body out into future events. And few ups and downs, but you know what? Overall, the game plan worked. Stick to the game plan.
Carson is coming in July. What's your game plan? Do you take a break? Do you go right back to training?
Let's be honest. I'm going to take 2 or 3 days off, and I'm going to eat ice cream, and I'm going to eat cookies, and I'm going to eat cake, and I'm going to eat whatever I want, and I'm going to sleep like mad because, honestly, I've maybe slept 5 hours the last couple nights, and sleep, eat, and then it's right back to training.
Sleep, eat, workout, repeat. Sounds good. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I would say thank you, Sheila Barden. Outstanding performance. This was one of the wilder regionals here. You see the qualifiers, Barden, Tovar, Wells, Smith, and Aramo, and these 5 were fluctuating all weekend long.
I mean, anytime you have an athlete that looks at the camera and will simultaneously blow a kiss and shoot some pistols at it, how can you not be a fan of that? If you watch the interview we did with her on the CrossFit YouTube channel, she said back in the year that she did make it to the games in 2014, she just felt different in 2015. She didn't qualify. She took 6th place, but she said right now she feels like the old 2014 Sheila Barden. And man, that's exactly what we saw. She was on our radar, but admittedly so not to win the regional. It was, hey, she's going to crush the pistol workout. We know that. Can't wait to see what she'll do on regional Nate. But the competition she faced, beating out Stacy Tovar, Brooke Wells, Jen Smith, I mean, now she is in the serious conversation after you win your regional to be one of the top contenders back at the games after missing a year.
And once again, we saw an awesome race for the bubble for one of the top 5 spots. And Christy Aramo was one of the athletes that came out in event 7, similar to what we saw in the East with Tasia Persevich, and put together a phenomenal performance to close out her weekend and actually get her back into the top 5. If you look at how she battled, she started the day in 8th after a 9th place finish, a top 10 finish in event 6, moved up to 7th, then has her best finish of the weekend with a 2nd in event number 7. Her and Jen Smith were on the outside looking in. Both end up in the top 5. Congratulations to her.
Those are the women advancing on to Carson from that central region. How about the men? Which 5 end up fighting their way into those final 5 positions for the CrossFit Games? Here are your qualifiers. Scott Panchik coming back from a few points down to claim top qualifying position at the end of the weekend. He'll be joined by Jacob Hepner, Alex Anderson, Zach Carcetti, and Sam Dancer squeaks in at position number 5. But Zach Carcetti, impressive all weekend long. Nikki Brazier caught up with him.
What was this first win like for you?
It's just an amazing experience. I watched it a lot on YouTube about how people tell you that this moment is really amazing, and it really was what they said. So, I don't know, I'm just really excited to get back to training and see what Carson's like.
I know that you train with Jacob Hepner at Cobra Command. You guys are known for heavy volume. Do you think that helped prepare you for this? There it is, there it is.
For the CrossFit Games, yeah, I think you need a lot of volume, and Jake said his goal is to crush me every day until the game, so I think I should be prepared well.
Is that going to be weird training together from here on out?
No, I think we fit really well together, our personality, so I think it'll be fun, just a lot of fun.
Well, congrats. We'll see you in Carson.
And Zach Carcetti, admittedly, he's not one of the guys we were really talking about all weekend long. He just stayed consistent, kept himself in and around that qualifying position, and we're talking about him now as he heads to Carson.
Him and Hepner, just a couple bros doing CrossFit, hanging out, but he 100% grabbed our attention when event 6 went down. He just smashed that thing, and now training with somebody like Hepner, he's not going to let anything fall through the cracks. So I'm curious to see what he can do. There's a big difference between regionals and the games, and at least he has Hepner in his corner to kind of help him not make some rookie mistakes.
And it's interesting to see where he came from, because you look at some of the major regions, and the Central is one of them. We talk about pockets of talent amongst athletes, but this little box, Cobra Command CrossFit in Kansas, puts 2 athletes in the games in the same year in one of the toughest regions.
Maybe the most impressive athlete from this regional or CrossFit Games history is headed there as well, as we focus in on team competition. And Rich Froning's squad once again impressing all the way through. Mayhem Freedom in the top qualifying position. Joining them on their way to Carson, 417 OC3 Black, Timberwolf CrossFit, and 3 Kings Black. They are all headed to Carson. And we checked in with Mayhem Freedom after their event wins. And they were obviously very excited to be heading back to the games. And after their performance, I think you have to consider them as well a favorite heading to Carson in a few weeks.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Rich Froning, I mean, yes, we talk about him a lot, but for good reason. The guy has won individual competition 4 times, and he's the first time he shows up on a team, they win. Now they're back to winning the regionals by almost 100 points. He's excellent at programming, has an incredible work ethic. He's not going to let his team show up with any visible weakness, so you have to watch Mayhem.
And I think it's a testament to his leadership that he's found these individuals to kind of follow him and let him follow and kind of just, set a precedent for them across the board. James Hobart moved down there. He qualifies as an individual. Matt Hewitt hops on the team. Christian Reffett, Ellie Kabord, all those athletes just really elevated to another level the minute they walked in the door at CrossFit Mayhem. We call it the Ferning effect for a reason.
Right.
And now I'm excited to see what this team plus Lindy Barber can do in Carson.
So there you have it, the final 15 men, women, and teams that have qualified for Carson. Outstanding performances all day long. Let's take a look at the best of the best, the event records after all is said and done. And Pat, I'll start with you. Your most impressive thing as we look at the Event 6 records here with David's daughter and Carcetti setting the marks.
I mean, we didn't really think maybe a sub 10 would happen quite that frequently, but for David's daughter to do that, the engine on top of everything else that she has, incredibly impressive.
And then Tommy, Event 7, which ended up being the decider. Those legless rope climbs, that was the decider in so many ways. And Tasia Persevich, she sets an event record, and she had to go to the games.
And it was a theme in the East. Both Tasia and Spencer needed a win to get to the CrossFit Games. Both of them do that. Both of them set an event record, and now they get to wear that Games athlete shirt.
And a tip of the cap to those putting together all the programming here in terms of challenging the greatest athletes the world has to offer. Check this out. Of all the athletes that competed in regionals this year, a total of 12 were able to complete without being capped each and every event. That's less than 1% of those involved in the games. That's just astounding.
That is, we throw a lot of sharp-looking graphics up on the show here, but that one blows my mind more than anything else. Of the hundreds of people that threw down in all the different events, 12? I mean, are you kidding me? So these people are not even on a normal human being level.
And when we were looking for all the stats for this graphic, you're looking down the list at some of the best athletes. We're talking legends of the sport. And sure enough, there's a number next to their name with a cap next to it, and you're like, man, him too?
Right.
Her too? Wow. And the caliber of athlete to get through all of this without being capped was science fiction a few years
Those
ago.
12 people need special T-shirts or plaques or something like that.
But it really speaks to just how good the talent is around the world, that they have to be challenged this way. And, as we wrap up regional coverage, just hats off to everyone who had the chance to compete. I've heard it said quite a few times, you have to be really, really good to be made to look bad at this level of competition. So just hats off to everyone out there competing all through regional competition. Pat Sherwood, Tommy Marquez, it has been great to share the stage with you here all weekend long. Everyone, it's been a pleasure and a privilege. Thanks to our great crew. Thanks to everyone working the regionals. And thanks to all of you for watching. For everyone here, I'm Sam Farber. It's been a pleasure and a privilege, and we will see you in Carson for the 2016 CrossFit Games.
An event record, 100 points. Start booking your ticket to Carson.